With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Apparitions, poltergeist-type phenomena in an old house. Unexplained events that could reveal a possible demonic possession. Hi friends, welcome to another episode of the Chronicles of the Unexplained podcast. In today's episode, I'm gonna tell you some stories that I got via email. Remember that you can send me your stories to my email enigma@unexplainedpodcast.net. Hi Judith, I have several stories that I want to share. Hope you can publish them. When I was about 16 years old, a block from my house lived one of my mom's brother with his wife and family. They had 2 sons and 2 daughters. In that house, it was rumored that many strange things happened. My uncle and his wife lived there. It was an ordinary marriage, but very close. My 2 cousins, who were fraternal twins just a year older than me, and their maternal grandma. The 2 sons had already married and lived out of the house. My cousins and I used to get together very often, and we had to experience some of the situations it was said about that house and that family. I remember hearing a lot of weird things when I was a kid. Such was the activity that it became almost normal. Mrs. Olivia, grandmother of my cousins, and whom I also called grandma, although she was no longer my blood relative, she told us that she had always experienced unexplained situations and that she dared to say that either they followed her or it was something that she attracted, since all the events experienced were in different places. She had a special perception. She used to see and experience things that other people didn't. As I told you, I often stay overnight in that house, especially on Fridays after school. For us, it was the best that our parents allowed us to spend time together, because we really enjoyed when Mrs. Olivia told us stories that we found fascinating, because at least I have always been interested in the paranormal topic. As time passed during the gatherings, now as an adult, from time to time we brought that memories back, and is when we realized that many situations that Mrs. Olivia talked about were real, since other relatives said they experienced them as well. That is why I dare to tell them, because the veracity of this have been confirmed. Over the years living with the family, Olivia told us that as a child, she used to work with her parents in the fields. She helped them to do all kinds of tasks. At that time, she tells us that it was the time of the revolution, and very often strangers would come and raid houses, taking everything in their path, including young girls. In one of the occasions, somebody came in. When Olivia's dad hears this, he tells them, "Don't move or make noise. Someone came in. Be still for a moment." Olivia remembers seeing her father grabbing a rifle he had and arming himself with a lot of courage. He goes out to see what is happening, while her mom prayed and hugged her children protecting them and imagining that someone was destroying the house because a disaster was heard. When he arrives at the kitchen, he realizes that the door is still intact as he had left it in the night before. Also, Olivia said that she remembers very often while she and her siblings were doing homework or drawing in their notebooks, pencils would slip out of sight in front of their eyes and appear elsewhere without any explanation. On another occasion, Mrs. Olivia tells us that for one night everyone was sleeping peacefully when suddenly they heard as if someone was ripping off the front door. Her dad got up. He was already alert. It was not the first time they had experienced such things. When he got up and grabbed his rifle, as he walked down the stairs, it could be clearly heard as if someone was throwing bricks at the fireplace. When he peeks out, he realizes that there were no such bricks, nor had the door been torn off. It was intact, still closed, just as he had left it. Another of the unexplained stories that Mrs. Olivia told us is about galloping horses. It turns out that one day, her mom and some friends were walking along one of the roads that led to the nearest town where they lived. At that time, Mrs. Olivia says that she and her friends were about 13 years old. It was summer, and she says that the road was rural and that it had many curves. They walked along the path. This one was narrow and usually not busy at all. She says that you could hardly see anyone riding or walking from time to time. And she says that it was notorious to hear when someone approached. They had to be alert in case someone came to pass by. They had to line up one behind the other as the road was really narrow. She says that that day, while they were walking, they suddenly heard some horses coming riding in the distance, and they were listening to them closer and closer. And also, at the same time, they heard one of those trumpets used by squadrons or used in the military army to give a curfew or to announce something. They stand on the side of the road, making room for them to pass. And as they were heard closer and closer, the minutes passed and they waited to see that herd of horses and their riders. But they realized that no one and nothing was coming along the way. All that noise coming from I don't know where vanished in a second. She says that they never wanted to go that way alone, since it scared them, because it turns out that someone else, sometime later, had told them that something similar had happened, but that they had seen a ghost or specter. Another of her stories is when Olivia was already an adult. She tells us that on one occasion, while she was at one of her daughter's house while she was visiting, she was watching television in a recliner, and she says she was taking care of one of her grandchildren who had fallen asleep. She was alone at the time, as her daughter was running some errands. Her son-in-law was out making some repairs to the house. Olivia says that she was very entertained watching television, but at the same time, she was aware of her grandson. She says that on her right side was a door, where the corridor goes from the entrance door to the back of the house where one of the bedrooms was. She says something caught her attention. She could see out of the corner of her eye that something was moving in the corridor, and she was curious because she knew that she was alone. She felt a strange feeling. She says that something told her that something off was happening. She realizes that it's like a kind of smoke vanishing down the corridor. When she saw a figure out of the corner of her eye only, since she didn't dare to turn around, she felt a little afraid. She stays still and slowly turns. When she turns around, she sees that it's like a smoke, and that smoke materializes little by little, and the figure of a man is formed. He was a tall and very thin man. She says she could see him walking and he was on his way to the bedroom at the end of the hallway. He was wearing khaki pants and a shirt. This was a matter of about 10 or 15 seconds. As he walked, she could see the door handle through it. He walked on, headed for the door, and disappeared behind the other side of the hallway. This surprised her too much. She says she didn't know what to think. 1,000 things were going through her mind. She didn't know whether to get out of there, to stay motionless, since fear didn't let her think. She says she sat there without saying a word, thinking what her eyes had just seen and trying to find a logical explanation for it. But there was none, and she felt a little bit scared. She says that she grew up with a teaching that ghosts don't exist, and that you shouldn't pay attention to that because it's not good at all. So the afternoon went by and she was not able to move. When it was time for dinner, she says that she was very serious and that her whole family noticed it. However, she didn't want to make a comment about it. She made an excuse that she was tired, that she would go to bed. Everyone began to do their thing in the house and she offered to do the dishes. So she was left alone in the kitchen with her son-in-law, and it was then that she decided to tell him what she had seen. In great detail, she tells him while her son-in-law listened to her very seriously. She manages to see in him a face of confusion, but she says she didn't know if it was because he was either worried or surprised, or maybe he just didn't want to talk about it, thinking she was hallucinating. She says that the son-in-law didn't say anything to her, not a single word, and that she chose to go to the bedroom to sleep, and it was precisely the same bedroom from which she saw the ghost of the man come out. She says that she spoke to that man with great fear and went to him asking, "Please, don't show up. Please, don't show up again. Don't scare me." She says that she spent the night and slept without any problem. The next day, while she was having coffee with her son-in-law, he approaches and shows her a book, and he tells her, "Let's see from these photographs if you can identify the man." Mrs. Olivia, as soon as she saw several photographs, immediately identified him. It turns out that he was the man who built that house, who lived and died there. The whole community knew him very well. He was a good man. Mrs. Olivia says that after this incident, her daughter and son-in-law had experienced several situations, but they hadn't wanted to tell her so as not to scare her. It turns out they say that their youngest son used to smile and talk to someone. They always mentioned among themselves that what the child would see, because it was very noticeable that something or someone got his attention, and he laughed and even played. They also used to experience many of the things that Mrs. Olivia previously talked about, things that disappeared and appeared elsewhere. Never paid attention. They never saw anything, but they say they heard at night as if someone went to the kitchen and turned on the sink faucet. They would go and peek out and it was nothing. Everything was dry, with no trace of water. They never felt that it was any threat to the family. Years passed, they sold the house, and the family that moved out never said anything about it. Maybe it's still there. I don't know. But what I do know is that he was a good spirit.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Not all meals are created equal. For instance, breakfast has the spicy egg McMuffin for a limited time, and lunch doesn't. McDonald's breakfast comes first. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Hi, I hope you can publish my story. It's short but very shocking. It's about a cousin's son who passed away in a car accident at the age of 18. Liam was an only child, and it seemed that he had been overprotected. Her parents got divorced when he was very young. He stayed to live with her mother. Behavioral problems began around the age of 12. He was on medication because apparently he had been diagnosed with anxiety. His father lived in another city, and although he used to visit him often, he couldn't see that he behaved strangely. On the contrary. Time passes and he realizes that he is too medicated. He tries to talk to his Liam's mom, to his ex-wife, but she tells him that it's the only way Liam can be calm, and he continues to medicate him. Apparently, Liam didn't get along with his mom. They fought a lot, and that was the cause of the frustration he had. One day, Liam's mom calls the ex, Liam's dad, telling him that he had tried to take his own life. Liam's father, when he knows this, he was really worried and takes his son to live with him. Although for a moment he hesitated because it was a big responsibility, but Liam himself agreed to live with him. A couple of years pass and Liam recovers and stops the medications. Things are slowly starting to get better, slowly but better. Liam starts working part-time at a restaurant and was a very bright kid at school. Everything seemed to be going very well, but the father gets married, and with a new wife, there were 2 children, a little girl and a young man about the same age as Liam, Nathaniel. He had half-eccentric, very esoteric ideas. He dressed all in black and used rare objects and practiced a series of rituals of unknown origin. Liam's dad's family notices this, and they worry since it was a very religious family. They said that the use of these things wouldn't bring them any good, that it was against what the Bible says. Liam's grandmother always told the 2 of them not to use those things, to get closer to God. And they, although they were not criminals and used to go to school, their behavior turned a problem for the family. Those practices of using tarot cards, black candles, skulls, and that type of objects were common among them. However, no one ever said anything as Nathaniel's mother felt that her son was being attacked. One day, one of Liam's aunts went to pick them up from school. She says that it was one of the most terrible experiences she has had in her life. She says that it has been the closest encounter with the demon himself. She says that she picked up Liam from school that day and that he took him home because there was going to be a family reunion. It was the birthday of one of the cousins. Liam's aunt says that when she arrived at the house while she was preparing everything for the celebration, everything was going normally. She decides to turn on the radio and put some Christian music. Liam's aunt says that she saw very strange behavior in Liam, like something was bothering him and he started behaving very strangely. Suddenly, he got up in a weird state of anger. He turns off the music. Then his aunt tells him, why did he take the music down? And when she tries to put the music back on, she sees how Liam's eyes, which were light brown, turn completely black. And she says that with a look of hatred staring at her, Liam's aunt went into total panic. And without turning to look at him, because she says that look was from the devil himself. She knew very well that this reaction was evil acting on his nephew's body. She began to pray, and without further distraction, she asked God for help, trying not to show the fear that invaded her. Suddenly, in the blink of an eye, everything was back to normal. She felt that it was gone. She turned to see his nephew's face and noticed that it was him again, a handsome boy with a look of confusion. After that event, Liam's aunt told his mother, Liam's grandmother, and another of her sisters, but she didn't want to tell Liam's dad because she was afraid he would get angry. A couple of weeks passed. On Sunday in the church, they had been praying for both, Liam and Nathaniel. After a few days, Liam approached his grandmother and aunts and told them that he wanted to go to church and that he also wanted to go to see his mom. He felt guilty for all the trouble he had caused to her. Unfortunately, that didn't happen because a few days later, he had a terrible accident that ended his life. It seems that he sensed was going to leave this world. On the other hand, the half-brother Nathaniel has not done very well. He's already an adult with children, and he has experienced 1,000 things. But that's another story. If you liked the episode, please share it with someone you know loves paranormal or unexplained stories. Follow me on different podcast platforms to receive notifications whenever a new episode comes out. Follow me on social media where I share previews of new episodes before they are published. Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube as unexplained.enigma. Facebook, Chronicles of the Unexplained. Thanks for listening, and see you all in the next Unexplained story.